Hello and welcome back to the SNS Football Podcast. We are back for another episode. We are reviewing game week 28 and previewing game week 29. We're also going to cover all the stuff regarding Chelsea and their current situation after Roman Abramovich's situation has now become clear. Or unclear, whatever you want to say. But we have got Morgan, who is going to talk about it. We're also going to touch upon Everton's situation and the situation that they're in, as well as your Premier League club. So make sure at some point tonight you tune in and you listen to us. But I can delightfully confirm that I am joined by Chelsea Morg. Morg, how are you, mate?
Good evening. I've been better. There's been better times, but no, not too bad.
All good, mate. All good. And look, tonight we want to crack through game week 28 and move on to previewing 29. So we've got plenty of time to talk about the Chelsea situation and other situations in the Premier League because a lot has happened since we've last jumped on here. Hopefully at some point Braden will drop in as well, but we're not really sure what's going on with Braden at the moment. But to start off, I mean, what a start to game week 28, straight in. Tottenham 5, Everton 0.
A defensive side in Tottenham.
Wow. Do you want to kick it off more?
Well, where do you start? I mean, Tottenham have been beaten by Burnley in the last month and beaten Man City, and they've now hit Everton for 5. If you want a more inconsistent run of results, there you go. I mean, it baffles me how they can pull that off and from in 1 minute be that good and in the next, like we saw in the Burnley result, just be that poor. But it does show exactly where Everton are. I mean, like you said, we'll touch on it later, but there is so much wrong from top to bottom. So many things that need to change. So many I saw something that said, I can't remember who it was that said it, but Everton's defence is championship level and never has a truer word been said, in my opinion. Tottenham aren't that good a team at the moment. They are, as I've said the past couple of times I've been on, Tottenham are a team in transition. They've got a lot of good older players, Son and Kane in particular, but they've also got good youth coming through, like Kulusevski, who they signed from Juventus. They shouldn't be hitting teams for 5 at the moment, not unless they're Norwich or Watford. That makeup of team. Mm-hmm. It's completely just not what you'd expect. Not what you'd expect of an Everton side that have been in the Premier League for so long and are so well established. And just it's almost painful to see at this point.
Yeah, I think Tottenham have definitely got the capabilities to do this against any team. Personally, I do think they've got the quality. And look, Tottenham are a Jekyll and Hyde team, like you mentioned. 1 week going and losing to Burnley, the next beating Everton for 5, and look, that's the way that Spurs are at the moment until Conte can properly implement his philosophy. And get his right players in. I mean, personally, I think Kulusevski and Bentancur have made a massive difference already. Matt Doherty now seems to be finding a bit of form under Conte. Maybe Conte's system is going to suit him like Victor Moses when Victor Moses was at Chelsea under Conte. Spurs have got a lot of players, in my opinion, that are similar to Chelsea in that you would probably see them as Deadwood, like a Doherty, like a Davinson Sanchez, like an Eric Dyer, that Conte could actually coach into better players. And will we be talking about a Dyer, a Sanchez, a Reguilon, a Doherty as a Rudiger or a Christensen at Chelsea a couple of years ago? But look, Everton were just, I've got to say it was probably one of the worst defensive Premier League performances I've seen in a while. Obviously, we'll touch upon Everton in a little bit, but they're in massive trouble. And like you said, I look at that I look at that defence as well, and I think that is such a championship defence. I mean, when we did a show a couple of weeks ago, I questioned the Donny van der Beek and Dele Alli transfers because I personally thought that there were players in roughly the same position and they actually needed to strengthen elsewhere. If this doesn't show that what I said back then was probably quite true, I don't know what does, because that defence was the thing that needed invested in, not the midfield, not the forward line, in my opinion. I think they've got the players there. It's that defence. And
I think the
Oh,
game
what?
that I think the game that summed it up for me was actually watching Everton against Boreham Wood in the cup.
Yeah,
Boreham Wood could and probably should have pushed them to extra time. A bit more quality in the
100%.
final third, and they get that to extra time. If
Yeah.
that if that wasn't a warning sign for Everton, then this has to get the sirens seriously going because they are heading one way. And like I say, we'll touch on it later. But yeah.
So moving on swiftly, obviously your boys. There's a bigger picture going on around Chelsea, of course, which again we'll touch upon in a bit. But just on this game, a pretty straightforward result for Chelsea. 2-0 up early on and game over, really, wasn't it?
Straightforward, did the basics right, moved the ball quickly, got Mason Mount and Kai Havertz into the areas where if you get them in and around the edge of the 18-yard box, you know they're going to finish the chances. Both finished really well. Chalobah comes up with a goal that he seems to just be able to find every now and then, despite being a goalkeeper in the middle of it. I mean, what he's thinking diving for that ball, I'll just stick my arm out. Yeah, you're not going to get away with that one. But no, it was straightforward. Nothing that you didn't expect. Norwich, this wouldn't have been a game that they'd have looked to get anything out of. I think to get one goal and to keep it 2-1 for as long as they did, that'll be the positive they take. I mean, Dean Smith said today it's not the hardest job he's had. I think I agree with him. There are good players at Norwich. I think, as we'll see again, the best thing for them will be to go down, come back up, and hopefully keep Dean Smith, because we've seen with Villa that he can take a relatively championship squad and keep it up. So no, this isn't a game that Norwich would have been looking at 3 points. It's an easy Chelsea 3 points, and both have got more important games coming up.
Yeah, I definitely think that this was a game that I think everyone would have said Chelsea were going to win, no matter what antics was going on the outside of the pitch. Look, a very comprehensive victory for Chelsea and a very, very professional performance. Wolves 4, Watford 0. Wolves bouncing back in emphatic style, being 2-0 up at half-time against Watford. Weirdly, though, looking at the table, Watford aren't out of this. Yes, they're in really bad form, and yes, they're not picking up results, but not the sides above them are not either. So, although this is a very damaging result for Watford, and God, it is damaging, they are shipping goals now, and that's a shock, really, because obviously Roy Hodgson's gone in there, and his main point is meant to be defensive stability, but I think it's proving those attacking players, like I said a couple of weeks ago, they're not really pulling their weight. They're not doing enough at the top end of the pitch to relieve the pressure of what's going the other way. And Watford are a bang in trouble. I think people will be betting a lot of money on Norwich and Watford now to be relegated. But good result for Wolves, really.
Well, I watched Watford on Sunday against Arsenal, and defensively they were pretty sound. They could see out a lot of Arsenal's attacks. It was only a few. I think it was 3 mistakes I counted for all 3 goals, and it was killer passes from Arsenal to break through the back line. But going forwards, they seem to be a little bit clueless. They get to the final third, they pass it across, but there's no one making a run through, or at least a decent run through. And when they do, they're not able to control the ball in anywhere near a clinical fashion. Wolves, I didn't expect anything else from them. They needed the 3 points if they're going to have any hope of Champions League football. It's a result that you'd expect to see. Wolves just need to, again, pick up the points in these matches and try and get something from the teams above them if they want to get Champions League football next season.
Yeah, Wolves have been very impressive this season, and to be honest, I didn't expect anything less. But I was just a bit shocked, really, how Watford capitulated, especially like you mentioned, how much they gave Arsenal a go in that game.
We're used to seeing Hodgson's sides be beaten 1-2, 1-0, 2-1. The Palace side would barely score any, but would also barely concede any. So to see him losing 4-0 regularly is worrying.
Well, as well, I mean, if you look at Watford, only a couple of weeks ago they beat Villa, but I always worry that when a coach goes in there and tries to stabilise the back, you actually end up losing quite a lot going forward because your main focus is stopping conceding goals. you then lose that ruthless edge going the other way. So I think that's probably why Watford do look a bit clueless, because let's be honest here, the main focus is definitely on preventing them goals going the other way.
But if he does that, they'll stay in the league.
That's the thing. It's that balance, isn't it? It's getting that fine balance between being effective going forward, but also being able to stabilise that back. And Roy Hodgson, realistically, he's had his hands tied behind his back, hasn't he? Like, he hasn't
Poor
got
man, he was in retirement.
Literally, hasn't got his squad, hasn't got his players. He's having to use players for a philosophy that probably don't fit profile-wise. And that's probably why that Watford are getting the performances that they are at the moment. So you may as well have just kept Ranieri to the end of the season, because what's the point in letting him bring in players and then, not
ship him out?
Yeah, weird Watford as a club. But moving swiftly on,
This is so easy.
Leeds United 0, Aston Villa 3. Villa are currently on absolute fire. Last time we were on here, we lost 1-0 to Watford, and I was pretty deflated going into the next couple of games. But my God, have we been ruthless and lethal these last 3 games? I mean, 2-0 away to Brighton, 4-0 at home to Southampton, which I'll admit caught me completely by surprise. I didn't expect us to do that one bit. And then we go and bin Leeds off 3-0 in what has got to be one of the most comfortable all-round away victories I think I've seen in a while.
What a goal by Callum Chambers as well.
I mean, is that Bergkamp in disguise, or is it ridiculous? Your looks in when Callum Chambers is scoring screamers from the edge of the box. It's just what a performance by Villa. But what would you say on it, Morg, before I sort of touch on it?
I just think it was as comfortable an away win as you can have, to move the ball that easily, for Leeds to not even really get a foot on the ball for 90 minutes. It was so easy. I only watched the highlights, but that gave me enough to understand how that game had been. I didn't see a highlight of Leeds. I watched the Sky Sports ones. You don't see a Leeds highlight. It was Villa just moving the ball so crisply. I think I saw one chance, and it was a misplaced Villa pass. Like that, if that doesn't tell you how poor Leeds were last night, nothing will. Again, Villa are in very good form, but should they really be hitting Leeds for 3? On paper, no, but there's things wrong with Leeds injury-wise, and they've got a similar scenario to Watford, really, where the manager's come in who has a completely different philosophy to Bielsa even. That again, they're in a similar situation to Watford, Everton, Norwich. The usual suspects that we're talking about on here, and like I said, really easy for Villa.
Yeah, look, I don't want to keep mentioning it, but I called this about Leeds. I said how bizarre it was that they didn't sign anyone. I said that they had the worst transfer window because they didn't bring anyone in. And getting rid of Bielsa as well sums up the way that club is being run at the moment, because what is honestly the point in getting rid of Marcelo Bielsa, bringing in a manager who has no Premier League experience? That is what you're going to get. Leeds, no game plan whatsoever. I was so shocked that Leeds didn't actually come at Villa and try and unsettle us, because Leeds should have known if Villa get into their game and you let Villa get into their stride and start playing their football, it will be a very long afternoon, especially under Steven Gerrard. And we've got magical players, don't get me wrong. Philippe Coutinho, he is just phenomenal.
When you've got Coutinho and Buendia, you need to isolate them.
Exactly. And we saw 3 teams do that. And Gerrard, credit to him, he's been adaptable. He's slightly tweaked the formation, and he's brought in Danny Ings for Buendia. Buendia's had to sit out a little bit. But my God, some of the football we were playing was absolutely sensational. I think it was half us being brilliant and half Leeds being absolutely awful. But I just think tactically Leeds got it horrifically wrong. They didn't show any intent to go and win the game. They actually looked as though they were sitting back and trying to hold us off and catch us on the counter-attack, which I'm not being funny. You're just not going to touch the ball, and it was so easy for Villa. Like Matty Cash. I mean, what a fantastic buy he was. You know, all that time ago. Now you can really see in terms of statistics now, Gerrard's philosophy fully coming intact at Aston Villa. Matty Cash now 4 goals and assists in his last 3 games. Tavernier at Rangers was exactly the same. We're beginning to see it at Villa with Matty Cash, and I just think it's a really exciting time to be a Villa fan. You know, we're moving into this game against West Ham away, another tough game, but if Villa can get anything out of it, we're looking up that table now. You know, when I was last on here, I was probably talking about Villa struggling a bit and, you know, maybe looking down rather than looking up. But if we win our game in hand, we're only 4 points off Wolves.
You're in that European picture.
We're in there. So, and I'd back us with the fixtures that we've got at the moment to really push on. And it's unlike Villa to finish the season strongly. So it'll be really interesting to see if we can maintain that and go on a bit of a run to the end of the season and see where it ends us. But Leeds are in trouble, man. I called it. I think they're going down. They are massively in trouble.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's all I can really say about Leeds. They are in trouble.
I think the worry for me is if they go down, I don't see them coming straight back up either. With Norwich, I see them coming straight back up as always. I don't see it with Leeds, not now.
I think Leeds is going to be a huge rebuild. I don't think I think their fans know it as well. I think there's a lot of unrest in that fan base, you know, from the whole Bielsa thing. It has turned very torrid very quickly.
Really
if I'm Jesse Marsh, I'm sitting there thinking, what have I walked myself into? But
has he been in English football?
No.
See, that you can't. To my mind, you can't walk into English football with Leeds. Bielsa did it, but he's a different breed. Jesse Marsh walking in. You're coming from America. Leeds is literally walking into hell in football terms. If those fans are on your side, brilliant, you're God. Yeah. If you're not, you are the spawn of Satan.
Oh, 100%. And do you know what? I took absolutely every minute of our fans taunting Leeds for 90 minutes. Our fans were incredible. All you could hear was Villa fans for 90 minutes on Amazon Prime. It was absolutely exceptional. So I have to applaud the Villa faithful on that one. They proper showed Leeds how to do it. But anyway, we move on. Southampton 1, Newcastle 2. Newcastle,
unbeaten in 2022.
Wow, doing fantastically, Eddie Howe now. When I said that Dan Burn and Matt Targett would be 2 key signings in this January transfer window, and a few people raised an eyebrow and said, I'm not sure about this. I don't think you're going to pull it off. Again, I have to admit on my own behalf, I am close to being spot on here because Targett and Burn have made a massive difference here. Like Newcastle look a completely different team with those 2. Targett going forward, Grimares getting his first goal. What a goal, by the way.
That flick was incredible.
Oh, what a goal. And to come back from 1-0 down as well, from a Newcastle point of view, is massive. I mean, they are well out of the relegation picture now. Like, they will probably be bottom half, but top of the bottom half, in my opinion. I think they'll finish 11th.
I was looking at the table. They're only 5 points off Villa. I know Villa are in good form as well, but that mid-table is so close. I tip them to be top half.
You think?
And they'll finish in European places next season. With another transfer window, there's no questioning. Keep Eddie Howe. He's proven it right now that he is the man to take that club forwards.
They
look so confident.
I'm really liking what Eddie Howe's doing. I think he's doing a phenomenal job. And for Southampton, it's a bit of a disappointing one because a home game against a side that on paper you would probably say, you know, throw out the form guide, they'd probably be looking to get a result against. But Newcastle on the form they're on, they've just got that belief at the moment. And will the bubble burst with Newcastle going to Chelsea, Stamford Bridge this weekend? It probably will, in my opinion. But from a Southampton point of view, that's now 2 defeats in a row. They were on some good form before that. So it's going to be really interesting to see if Southampton can bounce back after their 4-0 loss to Villa and now a 2-1 home defeat to Newcastle.
Yeah, I think it will burst for Newcastle on Sunday, but I don't think it will burst completely. I just think they'll experience the first defeat. It'll be Eddie. How does Eddie Howe respond after this good run? But it won't be. We won't trounce them. I guarantee it'll be a 1-0.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely think Newcastle will go and give you a game. I mean, they're the form team in England at the moment. I think they're second on the form guide in the last 6 games. They've really have made. I said they were going to get out of it. I think we all did. I think we all said that Newcastle would get out of it with the players they've signed and the business that they've done. And you can only admire the job that Eddie Howe's doing at Newcastle. You know, that he's done a phenomenal job, and this was a brilliant result, especially coming back from 1-0 down. We'll quickly preview game week 29, and then we will move on to Everton and Chelsea's situation and the relegation scrap, because it is looking very competitive. Very quick fire these. Brighton versus Liverpool. Obviously, Liverpool 6 points behind City, but still got their game in hand. I believe this isn't a game in hand, because I do believe City have got Crystal Palace on Monday night, but a must win for Liverpool if they want to challenge City. So what are you thinking, Morg?
Well, every game for Liverpool's must win between now and the end of the season if they want to win the title, because you have to consider that City won't lose any games between now and the end of the season. That's the standard they set. So I believe Liverpool will do this comfortably, like 3-0. I don't see Brighton getting much of a foot in. We know the confidence Liverpool have after the cup final win. So, no, I don't see any issues.
I'm going to go 2-0 Liverpool. I think I mentioned a couple of weeks ago I think it was with Braden or with you, about Dan Ashworth, the technical director of Brighton, stepping down to go to Newcastle.
Yeah, me.
And I did think that the wheels were going to begin to fall off at Brighton, and I did think that they were going to start to go on a bit of a decline. I'll admit I didn't expect it to be as immediate as it has been, but Brighton do seem to be struggling a little bit for form at the moment, and I think they're lucky that they've managed to accumulate so many points that they're not really getting sucked into that relegation scrap yet. But yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 Liverpool on this one. I think it will be a relatively routine win for Liverpool. I think Salah will get back on the score sheet as well. Brentford Burnley, this is massive. If Brentford win, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be as good as safe, because that win against Norwich that they got was huge. I mean, that a 6-pointer against Norwich, and they've been them off 3-1. That was very impressive. Yeah. But for Burnley, you feel as though it's make or break now. With Everton and Leeds not winning games, Burnley have to capitalise. And if Burnley win this game, my God, does it throw this relegation scrap into absolute rapture. But I'm going to go 0-0. I think it'll be such a cagey game. I think both sides won't want to lose rather than win. And I think it could be an absolute bore fest. So I'm going to go 0-0. I
think it'll be cagey. I think Brentford have the more technical players. If Burnley don't win, then I think their stay in the Premier League could be over.
Mm-hmm.
I do think Brentford will edge it just because of the technical players that they've got. I think I'll go 1-0. But you say, it'll be really cagey. No one's going to want to be the guy to make the mistake that leads to the goal, because both sides, like you just mentioned, both sides know any mistake now could spell relegation. Does spell relegation, and you don't want to be the guy that makes the mistake that leads to your club going down. Mm-hmm. That being said, I think Brentford have enough quality players going forwards, with Eriksen and Ivan Toney in particular, that they will have enough to find a way past Burnley.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, Burnley have to win this game. This is massive for Burnley. If they don't win it, they are in massive, massive trouble, and the repercussions of it could be huge in the context of the relegation zone. Big one, Saturday night.
Well, it won't be 6-1.
Well, I mean, Man United versus I tell you what, it could be. It could be the way that Man United played against Man City. And if Spurs want to turn it on, this really is tough to call, because you look at Man United, they got absolutely schooled by Man City. 92% possession for Man City in the first half. No, in the last 15 minutes. I mean, what on earth is going on there? Man United just give up. Spurs obviously off the back of a 5-0 win against Everton. Morgan, I'm going to come to you first. Man United, Spurs, what are you thinking?
Well, if Spurs win, they go above United in the table, and they've still got 2 games in hand.
This is
They
massive.
go a point above, and they've got 2 games in hand. It would put
United
United at least in 6th, meaning that they'd need someone else to win a trophy to go into the Europa League. 2-0 Spurs. I can't see United winning. Not after watching them on Sunday. They were awful. They don't defend as a unit. They don't attack as a unit. It's individual players. The only reason they scored on Sunday was because of one player. It was because Sancho was able to create it himself.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. When Solskjaer was there, they at least had the ability to turn it on in a big game.
Yeah.
Because his way of management was very good at absorbing pressure and hitting teams on the counter and picking up the spaces that teams would leave behind. On Sunday against City, they tried it the other way. They tried to have more of the ball, but City was so much better at picking up the spaces. They were so much better at moving the ball around the back of United. To have 3 shots in quick succession for that second goal for City, that shouldn't happen. There should be 1 shot, ball cleared away. It's poor. It's poor from United every game at the moment, and Spurs. I do think they'll do it.
I'm going to go 1-1. I think, I would like to say that Spurs will win this game. I do think Harry Kane is going to score in this, but I just think United are in a very, very difficult situation at the moment in that they're going through a transitional phase. A lot of the players seem to be a bit of an unrest with Ralf Rangnick because they know that he's not going to be there at the end of the season. You've got a lot of egos in that changing room. A lot is going wrong at the moment at Man United. And this game for Man United is massive because with Spurs having games in hand, Man United, as a bare minimum with the team they have, should be making top 4 this season. Absolutely no excuse.
You've got Cristiano Ronaldo. You can't miss out on the Champions League.
Exactly. And this is the game. I think if United lose this, I think it's over. I think top 4 is as good as over, and they will then be fighting for Europa League, it seems. But look, United could easily go on a run. We've seen it before, but at the moment it's really hard to see because that Man City performance was so poor, especially in the second half. Tactically as well. Pogba and Fernandes playing up front. What on earth is that about? I mean...
Well, many people have said, pundits, fans alike, that Rangnick has successfully managed himself out of the job. Yes, he'll get the consultancy role, but there's no chance he gets given the full-time job.
100%. I mean, I was watching that tactically thinking, I don't wear glasses, but I genuinely felt like getting a pair of glasses on and going, am I actually seeing Paul Pogba playing up front with Fernandes? Like, what on earth is going on? Like, I couldn't understand it. Against Man City of all teams, you decide to play that as a game plan. I mean, just ludicrous behaviour. But we could be here all year talking about Man United. So to finish on them, I do think it'll be 1-1. I think it'll be a draw, 1-1 or 2-2. Wouldn't surprise me though if Spurs win. But Man United have got so many problems, and we could do our own pod for Manchester United. So we'll let Braden come back for that one.
Yeah.
Chelsea, Newcastle, I'm going to start it off. I'm going to go 2-1 Chelsea. I think Newcastle will score first, and I think Chelsea will pull them back in the second half. Yeah, I think Newcastle will shock everyone, but then I think Tuchel will shove the rocket up, and they will get a 2-1 victory in the second half.
I think it'll be 1-0 Chelsea, like I said earlier, but it'll be really close. Newcastle will defend very well. They'll attack well. They'll have plenty of chances. And I think it'll just be a late goal that nicks it in Chelsea's favour with a bit more quality in the forward areas in Newcastle.
Okay, fair enough. We then move on to when I can get it up. Everton v Wolves. Now
5-0 Wolves.
Well, wow. I mean, form guide. This is the game where the bookmakers will make a lot of money because everyone is going to back Wolves to get a win here. Because form guide, you say Wolves every day. They've just come off the back of 4-0 win, for God's sake. Everton have just been up 5-0. But this is the game where Frank Lampard has to turn it on. This is where Everton have to get a result because if Burnley go to Brentford and get a result, if Leeds get a result against Norwich, Everton are in a horrific position as it is. If they lose this, they are staring the barrel at the Championship next season, and it's incredibly worrying. I think it's going to be do you know what? I think they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose.
There's no way you can back Everton to win after the performances we've seen recently. You have to say they'll lose.
I think it's going to be 2-1.
I'm going to go 2-0 Wolves.
I'm going to go 2-1 Wolves. I think Wolves are going to do them. I think Wolves are going to send them in there. I think Wolves are just too good for them. Bruno Laga's got a very good system working, and I think Wolves have got way too much for them. I think that defence is going to get crucified for 90 minutes.
It's going to be hard to watch.
As an Everton fan, you're going to be worried, and we'll get onto them in a minute. This, again, arguably same importance. I mean, Norwich lose, they're probably down. Leeds, have to win this game. If Jesse Marsch doesn't win this game, I think there will actually be a revolt at Leeds because they do not want to go back down into that Championship playing on Channel 5 at 10:40 on a Saturday evening.
ITV now.
Wow, all right then, ITV. They've upgraded the chat. My God, it was class when Villa were in the Championship. But Leeds have got to win this game. I mean, again, I struggle to see, though, how Leeds are going to win this game because they showed nothing in that game against Villa. Rafinha was awful. Dan James was just running around, kicking Tyrone Mings for 90 minutes. They were just horrendous. Go on. I think
it'll either be 0-0 or 1-0 Norwich.
You don't. That's massive.
Because I saw more from Norwich than I've seen from any Leeds game I've watched recently. I saw more from Norwich against Chelsea than I have from any Leeds game recently, and that's enough for me. Leeds do seem like a steam train headed back towards the Championship, and I do that you could see almost a redo of the West Ham fan moment where he picks up the corner flag and protests. Because they, like you said, they won't be happy about going back to the Championship, but that is where they're headed.
I'm going to go with a 2-0 Norwich victory. I'm going to back my Dean Smith allegiances, being a Villa fan. I'm going to back him. If Norwich actually win this game, if we're looking at the Premier League table here, if Norwich win, they're only 2 points from safety if Everton don't pick up a point. So again, Norwich aren't still out of this. And if
they gave 3 points behind Leeds.
Exactly. I mean, I personally back Dean Smith over anyone really in a one-off game. We've seen it before. And Leeds have already lost at home to Newcastle when Newcastle were right down there. So I'm going to go with a 2-0 Norwich win. I think Leeds are in real trouble and they just look a shambles at the moment. And again, you can't really predict. I know it's probably mental of us both to some people.
No, but you can't.
Norwich win, but it is what it is. Leeds are just terrible at the moment. Absolutely terrible. And I think this one's straightforward as well. I think
2-0 Southampton.
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 Saints as well. I think Saints will return to winning ways here. Watford are just so poor at the moment that I think this will be a relatively routine victory for Saints.
Yeah, I've got nothing else to add. Southampton have got the better players, the better manager. Easy.
West Ham v Villa. One that's probably not as easy.
Definitely not. Big game.
Big game. A game that I went to the reverse fixture of earlier on in the season and we were beaten 4-1. And I remember that my feeling coming out of the ground then, and I felt that West Ham were on such a different level to Villa. The way that West Ham played that day they were just phenomenal. They were so much better than us. And yes, that was the demise of Dean Smith era, of course. You have to put that into perspective. But look, this is a massive game for Villa because I think West Ham will be coming into this a bit fearful of us. Bear in mind, West Ham. Go on, mate.
I said they've just been in Spain, lost 1-0 to Sevilla. There's a lot of miles in the legs, tiredness. Villa have just comprehensively beaten Leeds, and it looked like it took nothing out of them. I don't think one player broke sweat last night. 9 points in it. Villa have got a game in hand. Villa win this, you'd be saying that they're targeting finishing above West Ham this season. West Ham, if they've got any aspiration of finishing in the top 4, they have to win this. 1-1.
1-1. I think a draw is a very safe prediction in a sense. And West Ham are very strong at home. Jarrod Bowen, being a blue nose, he loves a goal against the Villa. So it really won't surprise me if he nets. But I'd like to think that the way that Villa are defending at the moment, the form that we're on, that we'll go there and give them a real game. And if I was a West Ham fan, I'd be quite nervous coming into this because Villa have put 9 goals past 3 opponents in the last
That's mental.
3 games, and we haven't conceded a goal. It's 3 clean sheets in a row. Philippe Coutinho really is looking world class, and it's going to be music to my ears in the summer when we hopefully sign him for that 33 million. Just unbelievable business from Villa, really. And yeah, this is going to be a top class game. I think 2 very good sides going head to head. I think there'll be a lot of yellow cards in this because I think it's going to be a really, really competitive fixture. But I'm going to back the Villa boys. I'm going to go with a 1-0 Villa win. I'm going to go for 4 wins in a row, 4 clean sheets in a row, and a massive 3 points for Villa. At the moment, I can't see, whilst we're on this uphill trajectory, I can't really see us coming off it at the moment. And West Ham, with the problems they're facing, having to travel to Spain and the loss, and having to play most of their team that's probably going to play against us, it's going to be a very, very difficult game for West Ham, especially when Villa didn't really have to break out of second gear against Leeds. I think West Ham were probably hoping that Villa had a tough time at Ellen Road, playing at the same time. But I really don't think Villa broke a sweat, as we've already mentioned. So I'm going to go with a 1-0 Villa win. Come on, the Villa. Arsenal-Leicester, second to last game, the penultimate game of the game week. Arsenal, wow. I mean, we've spoken about the top 4 race before, and I said that Arsenal would probably make top 4. You were still on the Man United train, but you said Arsenal would drop out. It's looking at the moment like it's Arsenal's top 4 to lose.
Oh, it's 100% Arsenal's to lose.
Yeah, they're in a fantastic position now. I mean, if we look at the Premier League table with 3 games in hand on Manchester United and already a point above, 3 games in hand on West Ham, a game in hand on Spurs, and they're already 3 points ahead. Arsenal are in a magnificent position, and you do have to give credit to Mikel Arteta. I know people don't like it, but he's done a fantastic job this season, and that Arsenal side is really beginning to look the real deal. And top 4 is nothing more than they deserve. They've been consistent this season. They've been free-flowing. They've looked good.
Arteta's proof that giving a manager time and backing, even if you say that Arsenal don't fully back managers, he's been given enough backing to get the squad that he wanted to see the results that he could get. Yeah. And you're just seeing the benefits of it. He's clearly learned a lot from Guardiola, and you're seeing just high quality performances from Arsenal. They've taken the top 4 by the scruff of the neck, and like you said, to be a point above United with 3 games in hand. Yes, okay, one of them is, I know it's Chelsea, but the fact that they've got that potential 9 points to go and get, they could genuinely get 3rd. If Chelsea have a slip up, Arsenal could finish 3rd, which is ludicrous.
It's mental, isn't it? Because, people at the start of the season would have laughed you out the room if you'd have said that Arsenal would be anywhere near Chelsea this season. And,
Look at the way we
you know,
dispatched them in August.
exactly. But do you know what? It's proof that a season is 38 games. Teams
Yeah.
are going to go through phases within the season. I mean, look at Villa. When I went to watch Villa West Ham, like I said earlier, we were horrendous. I would never have thought for 10 seconds coming out of that ground that we'd be ninth, 3 points against West Ham this weekend, and we're only 6 points away from them, and they're in fifth, or sixth even. Like, it just really is mad how the Premier League can constantly change. But Leicester, they've just been very inconsistent this season, haven't they? Just got a massive win against Rennes in their first leg of their Europa Conference tie. Interestingly, they probably would have faced Spurs had Spurs not been thrown out the competition. But big win against Rennes for them. Coming into this game, Leicester-wise, I mean, they're just bang mid-table, aren't they? They can't really seem to be getting... I mean, they've won their last 2 games, but they can't really seem to be getting any form, Leicester, and they are struggling at the moment. But if they was to win here, again, people might be talking about them pushing back into Europe again. So, what do you see for this?
I can't see it. I can't see Leicester getting anything over Arsenal. I think they are sliding. Yes, they will arrest the side at some point, but it's not this game. 2-1 Arsenal.
2-1 Arsenal. I'm going to go 3-0 Arsenal. I think Arsenal are going to really comfortably win this game. I think they're going to send a real message out to the
statement of intent.
100%. I think Smith Rowe and Saka will run riot.
Not too much to say on this one.
Yeah, Crystal Palace, Man City. Do you know what, right? I have a weird feeling about this. I have a weird feeling. I'm getting my senses again. I think this might actually be a draw,
Spidey senses is England.
Yeah, Spidey senses are coming back. And look, I think Palace might be able to get a result here. Palace have definitely got the attacking players to hurt City. But, yeah, City are a good side, aren't they?
3-0 City for me. I think Palace moved the ball well, but City are just too good for anyone at the moment.
I'm going to go, do you know what? I'm going to go out there. Not like I'm always out there, but I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. I think it'll be a really interesting...
If Mystic Moore comes back on this one, I'll be very surprised.
Well, we can only hope from my point of view. I will definitely be back in the 2-2 now that I've seen it. But that is the Premier League games. We've reviewed game week 28. We've previewed game week 29 just. We're now going to talk for the next 20 or so minutes on 2 situations. Now, we've obviously got the Chelsea situation, which is going to be very close to your heart. And we've also got the Everton situation with them potentially facing a points deduction for breaching financial fair play. I don't know how clued up you are on the FFP with Everton and the actual figures.
No, I hadn't heard of that one.
That are being flown around. So I will probably cover that one in a bit more depth. But from your point of view, as a Chelsea fan, the news has now broke that Roman Abramovich, those of you that don't know, owner of Chelsea, who is obviously a Russian owner, unfortunately has now had, well, I say unfortunately, it is at the end of the day, it has to happen. It has to happen. His UK assets have now been frozen, which means Chelsea as a club have been frozen. Now, what that has stopped Chelsea from doing is selling tickets and selling anything within their club, because obviously it would go into Roman Abramovich. So
we also can't buy fuel for a team bus, just announced, because Barclays have frozen the credit cards.
So the ramifications for Chelsea here, they're potentially losing their Nike. Pretty much everyone is...
I'll just take the lead on this. So Nike have said that they're staying. Trivago have said that they'll stay. Yokohama, the former shirt sponsor, but they're still a club affiliate partner, they're staying. Obviously, we all know that it was widely publicised last night before kickoff that 3, this big logo here, That won't appear on the shirts for the time being. Hyundai, which is on the sleeves, they're currently still reviewing their sponsorship. So potentially you could just see that on the Chelsea shirt for the rest of the season.
And it's ramifications like that. I don't think people realise the domino effect that Roman Abramovich's assets actually being frozen is. And, we've heard about these bids potentially coming in. We've heard about this Swiss owner and the consortium that are looking to buy Chelsea. But go on, mate, take the floor. As a Chelsea fan, what are your thoughts at the moment?
Well, for me, this goes past what's going on in Russia and Ukraine. It's wrong. It shouldn't happen, what's happened over there. And everyone condemns it. No one can say what Russia's doing is right. If you do, then your head needs a spin. Yeah. But for the UK government to have had this long to consider their sanctions and still not figured out a way to give the British people employed by Chelsea Football Club a legitimate way to continue to earn money. Let's not forget, when you can't sell tickets, when you can't sell merchandise in the shops, that means the staff can't go to work. They can't go to work in the ticket office. They can't go to work in the shop. That means they probably won't earn the same amount of money that they were earning going into work. If the club continues to be frozen, if the club continues to be unable to make money, the only way we can make money is by people buying food when they're in the stadium. But that's half the amount of people that would be in the stadium. So naturally, the club will begin to lose money, particularly with big sponsors like Three and others. Chelsea got about at least 40 different sponsors. Each one of those will be reviewing their status with the club. If they all gradually drip away, which I don't think anyone can really blame them for, then you will see redundancies. Surely in this whole makeup, there should have been a plan to keep the British people earning a similar amount of money to what they were with Chelsea, or at least another. You'd like to think there's a support program for these people. It's tough because Chelsea is a massive institution, not just in England and the UK, but worldwide. You see Chelsea shirts, Chelsea merchandise in every continent. So to just almost pull the plug, it can't happen. You can't just one day have Chelsea and the next day it goes bust. But at the same time, the business as normal can't be the case, because then you're lining a close partner of Vladimir Putin's pockets. It's really tough. It's a really difficult situation, because on the playing side, you can't buy a player. You can't really sell it. You can't sell a player either if the money's going to go to Abramovich. We can't renew a contract, which means the likes of Azpilicueta, Rudiger, and Christensen will just go. We can't. The only things we can spend money on are, so we paid 97 million for Lukaku. We can continue. Yeah. Well, I don't know if we can now. Actually, we could. We were allowed to continue to pay that transfer fee, but with the credit card now being frozen, I don't even think that can be paid, because that'll be money going out of the club. The only way this gets solved, and it's the way I've been looking into today, and the way that most Chelsea fans know, is if someone buys the club. But if someone buys the club, none of it can go to Roman Abramovich. So he needs to almost give control of the club to the UK government. How willing is he going to be to do that? Only time will tell. It'll be more than likely be very reluctant. And there's a party that's come about today, Nick Candy, who seems to still be very willing to buy the club. I do still believe he'd have to be approved by Abramovich. However, and the big stumbling block for a lot of potential owners, like the Swiss consortium that we saw appear last week, is that Abramovich wants someone who will redo Stamford Bridge. It's been one of his long-term goals. He hasn't been able to do it. He wants someone who will take the club to a next level and continue its competitiveness on a world stage. Now, Nick Candy, I've looked into him today. He's a property developer. That's part of the way he's made money. So you'd like to think he will have a range of businesses, a portfolio of businesses that he can choose from to redo the ground. The government would back it because he would raise Chelsea's revenue, which is something that they're interested in. I think he said he raised it by 25%. It seems to suit all parties. It would just be whether the club is given over by Roman Abramovich to the government. If that doesn't happen, we are under these sanctions until the 31st of May, meaning that we'd effectively see out the season with a half empty home ground and no away fans at any game. So it would just be like going away to what we got to. I think we got to go away to Old Trafford with an empty away end. That would be horrendous. So we're either under these sanctions until the 31st of May, in which case they're reviewed, or the government tweaks it slightly to a football club's perspective. To be honest with you, I don't think anyone knows. Thomas Tuchel said last night on Radio 5 Live, as long as we've got a bus and shirts, we'll play. But even at this point, having a bus looks difficult. They're going to have to carpool with people to be able to get to football matches. Thiago Silva's going to be stood on the M5 with his stomach, trying to hitchhike. It's the only way I can see Chelsea continuing at this point, because we're almost on a game-by-game license to continue playing football. It's a horrendous situation, which has led to people like Pep Guardiola coming out and saying, do we need to do more? Do managers need to do more in looking into who owns the clubs that are looking at appointing them? So something like this doesn't affect them in the future. Does the Premier League need to do more to stop owners coming in with dubious backgrounds? But as someone said to me, or as I said to someone the other day, you don't have this much money as Roman Abramovich does without having some sort of dubious link to someone. Mm-hmm. If you're stopping Roman Abramovich owning the club, what are the Saudis doing owning Newcastle? What are the Sheikhs doing owning Manchester City? Mm-hmm. They've both got ties to dubious activities, dubious human rights offences, and we see what goes on with Saudi Arabia. That's been in the news, or that's been on people's minds a lot recently with what's happened in Russia. People are saying, well, don't forget what they're doing. And it says a lot when the only owner that has come out in support of Roman Abramovich is part of the Newcastle consortium. She's the only one who said anything on it. So, and we're playing them on Sunday. It couldn't be better timing. But no, something has to happen to stop Chelsea completely going under. Whether it's immediate or whether it's long term, I don't know. No one knows. But something will happen. The club won't be allowed to go under, because all hell would break loose. And the government would have a lot to answer for. But I don't think this is a quick fix. I do think we'll see, not this season, not next season, but 3, 4, 5, 6 years' time, Chelsea will be a mid-table club as a result of this.
I think, it's a very difficult situation at the moment. It's very difficult to speak on because we're sort of finding new things out every day. And at the moment, a lot of things is just speculation and, reactions to certain things. But I do think that, when the whole Super League thing happened, I was very passionate about the Premier League and the FA. I was very against what they're doing. And, I said that if you invite venture capitalists in, which is what Roman Abramovich is, he's a venture capitalist, you need an independent regulator. Gary Neville has been calling it for God knows how long. And this is the byproduct of what happens, unfortunately, is that you get these owners that pump masses and masses and masses and masses of money into clubs. But there's no actual thought then of what happens if one day something like this happens, or, there has to be structures in place. There has to be things set in place and foundations and procedures set in place from a governing point of view that stops things like this happening. And, look, there is no doubt that Roman Abramovich has been a very good owner for Chelsea. There is no doubt.
He's an exceptional owner.
his model, his ownership, it's been successful. It's been a majorly successful tenure.
There's a reason, just to build on that point, there's a reason pretty much every rival fan on social media is loving this, because 90% of them would love an owner like Roman Abramovich. No one has
100%.
won more trophies than us in the last 20 years. No one has won the complete set like us in the last 20 years. We continue to win every year, even when we shouldn't. We've had 2 trophyless years. To put that into perspective, Manchester United, who are this all-conquering machine, haven't won a trophy in 5 years. And it doesn't look like they'll win one this year. So when you put it that way, and you look at what Chelsea have done, winning, even if you just win a League Cup, you've still won something. And it's difficult because people want that kind of owner, but you can't have there was no way you can have the links that he has and get away with it, and that's what we're seeing the byproduct of.
Yeah, 100%. And listen, this could be a very, very a long conversation, but it's interesting, obviously, the points that you've raised and the things that you've spoken about with it. And there is major question marks about how the club is going to move forward. We will see more of that in due course.
I just hope that it's stable. I think every Chelsea fan knows where the club came from. We know that there was a campaign to save Stamford Bridge, get it rebuilt, because it was overgrown. It looked awful. We know that the club was bought for £1 before, in the ownership before Roman Abramovich. We know that the club has a long history of being Division 2 and mid-table in Division 1, and only really became a major force, although it had 1 European silverware, only became a major force in the years building up to the Roman Abramovich era. But even still, now it is that global institution. It is one of the big 6, along with Tottenham, Arsenal, United, City and Liverpool, that people are shooting at, hence the elation at Chelsea not being able to do much from other football fans. But at the same time, you can't just see a club go under. We've seen it too much in the lower leagues, with Bolton almost going under, with Bury going under, with Mansfield being poorly managed. Macclesfield being poorly owned. To see it at the top level would be completely even worse, if that's possible, than what we've seen at that level. It baffles me that the government didn't consider a better option for the football club, for the British company, than to just say you can't do anything. Yes, the club does a lot for Roman Abramovich's pockets, but it does a lot for the British economy. It just doesn't seem to add up to me.
Yeah, sort of to wrap up the situation, look, you've made some very good points there. And the thing is, I think in the next couple of weeks and months, moving on from this situation, I think we will begin to see more of the post-Abramovich era and what it's going to look like. I don't think it'll have massive implications about what happens on the pitch too much at the moment, because you've got a fantastic squad of players, but as soon
you've got a very good academy as well.
Exactly. So you have got some foundation in terms of the playing side of things that, you are going to probably be a very good team, for the next 3 or 4 years at least. But yeah, it's definitely going to be really interesting to see from a Chelsea point of view what happens next and how as a club Chelsea move forward. And to just finally finish tonight, because I know we've already been on for an hour now. Lastly, Everton could actually now face a points deduction for breaching financial fair play rules. Now, I found out about this news a couple of days ago. I think it only hit mainstream media yesterday or the day before. But essentially, Everton are in a very bad position because Everton are currently, allegedly here. I do want to clarify that this is from a source, but I do not want to say that it is fact. This is allegedly that Everton are currently holding back their financial documents And basically, there is with the way that financial fair play works is that it tries to make football clubs sustainable. Football clubs cannot lose more than, I think it's either 115 or 105 million annually per year. They are not allowed to lose it. If they lose any more, they are breaking financial fair play rules. Because, again, the financial fair play system, as much as people want to try and say that it doesn't do anything, that's what it's there for. Its intended purpose is to stop clubs from basically overspending and putting the club in a horrific amount of debt and a bad situation. Now, Everton, unfortunately, have got a situation where essentially they are already in debt over financial fair play, and they've got more things that are going to put them in even more debt, allegedly. And they are well in the 200 million plus mark for debt, which that can only result in one thing, and that would be being sanctioned with a points deduction, which this bodes the argument. And the argument that when I was watching the source, they were debating is that if Everton are trying to hold things back, allegedly, to prevent being sanctioned this season for financial fair play because of the implications of it, and the Premier League are holding it back because of the implications of it, where is the validity in football? Where the whole...
What's to stop you going 300 million in debt?
The thing is, these rules have to be enforced. These sanctions have got to be enforced. If Everton are in a situation where they are going to get a points deduction because they've broke rules, deduct them now. Don't deduct them next season when they stay up and teams, because then you'll have what happened in the Championship last season, where teams argued that Derby should have been deducted at the time of which they broke the rules, which is in the rules essentially, that they should be sanctioned when it happens. You've then got Wickham, who say they wouldn't have went down without Derby getting the deduction. Middlesbrough would have got into the playoffs. And the EFL last season had to release a fixture list with 3 clubs on it because they didn't know whether Derby were going to be sanctioned before the start of the next season. And
look at the Wigan situation as well, where they were put into administration, but the EFL couldn't work out when to give them the points deduction. It was something ridiculous. Like if they went down, they were going to be deducted for the start of the next season, or if they stayed up, they were going to. Either way, they ended up in League One.
Yeah.
So why not just say we're deducting you now? Same with Everton. Same with Derby. Argyle had it. We had it where it was 2012. We went into administration, bang, -10. Pompey into administration, bang, -10 or -12, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. Points deductions have to happen straight away, as you say, for clubs to know when you make a mistake, when something goes wrong, this is what happens. For Chelsea, if we go into administration, it's -9 points at the start of next season instantly.
Mm-hmm.
You can't say, oh, we'll deduct you when we feel like it.
That's essentially what is happening here. We have to be alleged here because at the end of the day, we don't want to get into trouble for anything we say on here. But you have to sanction, like teams have to be sanctioned there and then. They have to be sanctioned there and then, because if Everton don't get sanctioned, but they get sanctioned at the start of next season, the Premier League are going to have and the EFL are going to have a really ugly situation where you're going to have clubs feeling aggrieved for why they've been relegated. You're going to get clubs looking for compensation. You're going to be looking at clubs taking the Premier League to court and the EFL to court for things like this. If Everton have broke the rules, sanction them. Do it now. I don't care that we're midway through a season. They have broken the rules during this season. You sanction them. Allegedly. You sanction them for this season if they have broken the rules. Allegedly. Okay? That, for me, is, football is becoming, and people are beginning to see that it's not as green-coated and it's not as well maintenanced as we think it is. It really isn't. There are flaws. There are ways around financial fair play, allegedly, and there are things that clubs can do to avoid being sanctioned. And if Everton don't get sanctioned this season, but do get sanctioned next season, do not be surprised in any way, shape, or form if clubs like Burnley and Watford and Leeds, whoever got relegated because of them not getting a deduction this season, if because it's alleged, if they have broken the rules, the Premier League are going to expect a very, very ugly summer where there are going to be a lot of teams looking for justice. But either way, that is us done for tonight. We've whistled through everything very, very quickly. So obviously we reviewed game week 28, previewed 29, spoke about the Chelsea situation and spoken about the Everton situation. So we are done. That is us done for tonight. I can now go and try and catch the second half of West Brom Huddersfield because I believe the Baggies are losing. So come on. So thank you all for watching. We really do appreciate the support. Remember to like and comment, like the streams and comment down below. We're going to try and obviously be here every single week. We do apologise that there wasn't one last week as far as I'm aware. But we will try and release regular content as much as we can. But Morg, if you haven't got to add anything,
no,
that's us
nothing
done.
from me. Oh, that's 1-0 Huddersfield.
Lovely stuff. Lovely stuff. So Bruce Ball is in full tact. Love that. But thank you for your support, guys. And we shall see you hopefully next Friday, same time. Take it easy, guys.
Goodbye.